What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Out of Our League. This is episode 5, I believe. 4. Yeah, this is 5. We just finished recording episode 4.
This is episode Joey.
Yeah.
Episode Joey.
So this one, another very special episode. We got another member of the Kind of Funny crew here, so I'm super excited to get into the introductions. I'll be your host today, Gage. Let's see how again, Discord is a different placement than how I have it on here, so let's go down. We've got Kumail to...
I apologize for the hair.
Don't worry, it just looks like pixels on my side, so you're fine.
Oh, that's great.
On the right of him, we have Philip J. Woodward.
Hello, everybody.
To his right, we have Ben. I would say wave to the camera, Ben, but... and then,
Hey,
just say, what's up?
above him, we have
There we
Caesar,
go.
and in the middle, we have our very special guest this week, Joey Noelle. How you doing today, Joey?
Hello! Yay! I'm so glad that we could figure out timing to get me on just as the year's closing out.
Yep.
Perfect
Yeah,
timing.
well, we had to have you on because of your name, Joey.
Oh, I know. Just Christmas in December.
Yeah.
Perfect.
So we usually try to record these and release them like the same day, so either like on Saturday or Sunday. But since we just recorded one that's going to go up this week, we're actually going to save this one to release on Christmas Day.
Oh my gosh! Thanks, guys.
Yeah,
You're very
don't say we
welcome.
don't do anything,
So
guys.
excited.
We're giving you a Christmas present.
Happy birthday. Happy birthday.
Yay! Thank
I think
you.
we recorded live on Christmas Day.
I know. I took
Yeah.
time out of my holiday to come spend some time with you guys.
It's gonna
I
be
just
fun.
want to say something we do for every guest. Joey, you're pretty good.
Oh,
So
this
good.
is a fun snake voice. I like this.
He was
I
the
know
voice of
very
Snake.
little about Metal Gear, but I like it.
He'll do this for 90 minutes if you ask him to. Don't tell him.
Yeah, probably.
So I shouldn't. Okay.
He was the
I
voice
like
of Snake in The Last Chance.
Oh yeah, the Last Chance Rust video.
Oh. Now I'm just putting all the pieces together.
Yeah.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
A very fun
I
debut.
appreciate the assistance.
We do the you're pretty good for every guest that comes on the show. So
Everybody. I mean, here's the thing. Everybody likes to hear that they're appreciated and stuff. So
yes,
it's a fun little treat.
I think so.
It is always very fun.
Well, talking of treats, we've got Caesar Towers is going to treat you to our first question. Caesar, what
Yeah.
is it?
Ooh.
So it's actually two
Sequel.
questions. It's actually
Okay.
two questions. And I'm very excited to talk to Joey because I feel like Joey's the only person I could talk about this with. What's it like living with Moose? And
my God.
why is Stardew Valley one of the greatest games in the world?
Gosh. So here's the thing.
Oh
I
my
know that
God,
that's from the
perfect.
collector's edition, and I
Yeah.
keep telling myself, do I really need to buy this game again? But all of the stuff
It's
that it
worth
comes
it.
with is so cute.
It's worth it.
And I want the
That's
cute
about
little
it.
like guidebook and stuff like that. Yeah, I want it all. So then I'm just gonna start in reverse order. Stardew Valley is the best game ever, which I might be editorializing whatever title you gave it. Because it has so many different things. If you like dungeon crawling, then you can fight all the little things in the mines. People love doing that. If you like the farming part of it, you can grow all of these crops and then you can like make them into wine and then age them and like age your cheese, and it's like very fun. If you like dating sims, this is your game. You can like meet and romance and build up relationships with everybody in the town, and really there's just something for everybody. It is a little bit overwhelming when you first get into it because there's like not enough time in the day, but then you figure it out and it's fun and it's just relaxing, and the soundtrack's killer. Like the soundtrack is one of my
Very
favorites about
good.
Stardew Valley.
It's
Very
it's
good.
an awesome soundtrack. What I love about it is that
Okay.
there's a sense of like growth with the game. Like as you go
Mhm.
along with the game, you get stronger weapons, you get more health and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And it's just a game that like progress means something in like
Exactly. The only bone that I have to pick is that fishing is really hard. So
funny
like
that
I
you
still
say that.
haven't caught all the fish, even though I've played this for like hundreds of hours on like all of my different saves. But
it's funny that
fishing,
you
not
say
my
that,
jam.
'cause one of my friends, fishing is his favorite thing to do in that game. Like I don't
Interesting.
know what he's wired differently. Like I'm in
Yeah.
like the Stardew Valley Facebook groups and everybody hates it.
Okay, I feel at least validated that I'm not the only one that hates it. And I think it's one of those things too where like I wasn't good at it for like the first couple times I did it, and then I was just like, I'm just not gonna fish. So then I never really went back to it or like tried to get any better. But Yeah, so like that's why I really haven't like finished Stardew Valley, like the community center and stuff like that, because you have to catch all the fish and I've still not done that.
Oh.
So it does seem like kind of silly that
Jacuse.
I just haven't do it. I know. It's like my favorite game of all time, but I've like technically never finished it. Ugh. And that's even kind of a hard thing to put up against Persona. But that's a different question for a different
I
time.
was just about to
we're
say,
gonna get
how
into
Caesar
that
talked
later.
about Stardew Valley.
Yeah.
It's like how
We'll
everyone
probably
else
get into Persona
thinks I talk
later,
about
but like
Persona.
I just want to talk about Stardew
Perfect.
Valley because I don't talk about that with anybody else.
Oh, and it's so good. And it's the
Yeah,
perfect
you
Switch
definitely
game,
sound like me in
IMO.
Persona, Caesar, honestly. Now I'm starting to realize how everyone receives me.
I know,
It's
because
really
then it
hard
just kind of
self-reflection.
you get on a roll and then it's kind of hard to stop and then you just keep
Mm.
talking about it and then before you know it, you've kind of lost everybody.
It's
Or at least
rare to
sometimes
find
that's how I
someone that
feel.
likes the same thing you do when it comes to these niche games. I say
Yeah.
niche, quote unquote,
Yeah,
but
for sure.
Mm.
No, I feel you.
And
And then living with Moose. Oh my gosh. Living with Moose is the best thing I've ever done because it's all the fun of having a dog without actually having to do anything. Like all of the bad stuff about caring for a dog.
Like
So
a
I don't
nature
get like
nephew.
the 3 a.m. wake ups to like let him out. Or like if Moose, because Moose really likes potted plants that we have in the house. So like every once in a while we'll look over and he's just like digging in the potted plants. And I just get to be like, hey Gia, Moose is in the dirt. And then she has to deal with it. And I don't have to do anything. And it's really like honestly best case scenario in terms of things. I will say that them getting Moose as like a puppy has like kind of changed my perspective of like every new place that I move, I'm always like, oh, maybe this will be the place that I get a dog. Maybe I'll finally get a dog now. And then like watching them actually like raise a puppy, because I haven't had like even like my family, we had puppies because we used to like foster animals. But like we haven't had puppies in our house since like I was in junior high. So I like kind of forgot about the like all the things you have to do to like teach a dog how to be a good dog. And I was like, oh, this is a lot of work. And maybe I just want to be friends or live adjacently to people with dogs. So I just get to do the fun cuddle toy
The
part,
dogs.
but not the actual taking care of a dog part.
You just want to be the dog's fun at.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly. I know they're not home yet right now, but every once in a while, usually in the morning, Moose will come to my door because my door's like right here. I don't know if you can see it in frame, but he'll just like come scratch at my door, and he's like not allowed in my room just because he really likes to go under my bed. And then it's annoying because I have to like move. It's just a disaster to try and get him out from under my bed. So I usually keep my door closed, but then I'll just like crack it, and he'll just be like looking at me like, excuse me, or is somebody gonna pay attention to me? Clearly mom and dad aren't, or whatever, like Gia's working or Tim's downstairs or whatever. So then he just comes here and I give him little pets, and then he like prances along on his way. It's a pretty great setup.
That's awesome.
Are you dreading Tim and Gia going on holiday one of these days and you being left with the dog? Because then you have
So
to.
it's a little bit of both. I was like, oh, like if Tim and Gia ever leave, I can take care of the dog, but I'm low on the totem pole because Cool Greg also lives here. So like Cool Greg could, but then Cool Greg has his dog Boy, and they don't really mix super well. And then, but Gia's sister has like called dibs on taking care of Moose forever in perpetuity.
Awesome.
So I'm off the hook on that one. So I just have to wait for things to go back to normal so I can regain my place as Portillo's third favorite person in the house. Though I think now that they've all been like quarantining together, I think that Lucy has overtaken me in the Portillo affection list, which is upsetting.
I don't think Portillo knows the difference.
I was gonna say,
I know for Portillo, it's really just like a whatever warm body is there.
Yeah.
But I know it is like, I think this is like the longest I've gone without seeing Portillo in like since I moved to San Francisco.
I'm sorry. I was just gonna say, what's like the biggest difference between Portillo and Moose? Like because you've taken care of both of them in different.
Yeah.
Aspects.
It's so different because Portillo's so old, so he really he's kind of perfect in the sense that he just wants to sit next to you on the couch, which is like really great whenever because usually when I'm over there, I'm like, I'm gonna just play video games all weekend and like be a little hermit in the apartment. So he's perfect because he just wants to like snuggle next to you with a blanket, versus Moose like requires a lot of activity. So he's like, no, I want to play with this toy, and I'll bring you the tennis ball, but I'm not going to give it to you. And what if you chase me around here, and maybe I'll just start barking at things for no reason. So it's just like a different kind. He's definitely like puppy energy still, where Portillo's just so like old man energy, which is just laying there for the most part. They still haven't met, though I don't necessarily know that that would ever go well because they're both like kind of people dogs. Like they just want to be with their humans. Moose, I guess, likes dogs a little bit more than Portillo, but yeah, I don't know if we'll have to figure out the meeting situation for them at some point. Though I feel like it'll just be like them on the couch with their person and not a lot of interaction.
Just Portillo in the middle of like the studio desk, just lying there, doing his own thing.
Yeah, exactly. I
Yeah.
know. I always do think it's so funny when Greg just like puts him on the desk. Like I never would have thought about that. But that's like I've never really had little dogs, so I kind of forget that you can just do that.
Before we go to our first community question from Josh Strickland, one of our own had a question for you, Joey, and he was quite confused. This is JC Lego Man, good old Josh. He was just asking, Joey, what is your name? Because he's confused between the Joel, Noelle, Joey Noelle,
I have
Takagami.
so
He's
many
like,
names.
confused.
Yeah. So my full legal name is Joanna Noelle Takagami. And then my like I guess it was high school and college that like most people started calling me Joey. So like pretty much anybody that knew me before like junior high calls me Joanna, and my family does for the most part. And then anybody I've met after high school or after calls me Joey. And then I just shortened it to Joey Noelle when I was like on the internet, because when I was like, I don't know, my parents were always like, don't put your full name on the internet. I was like, oh, okay. So I just went with like the shortened nickname versions of it. But now it's like all my stuff's on the internet anyway, so I guess it doesn't really matter if my full
I went one step further and I put my first name and then I put the start of my last name, so I've clearly done something wrong. But Josh,
I think it was just like
also,
this thing when we were growing up and it was like more screen namey stuff, and I'm like,
yeah.
Now it doesn't really matter.
Josh also
so
asked,
that's why you get so many names.
What's your security number? And
Oh.
address and mother's maiden name.
I have to go grab that. It's in an envelope over there with my mother's maiden name. I'll just give you guys everything all at the same time.
Oh my gosh.
But yeah.
Philip,
that's the second social security number joke we've had today.
Okay. So Josh Strickland, also known as @Dark Stampede on Twitter, one of the great artists of
he drew the one of Portillo and Greg, right?
The one where Greg is looking at Portillo and he's got his phone in his hand. Yeah, he drew that one. He also drew the comic of Tim shaving his head for Extra Life. Anyway,
so good.
Right, that one was very good.
His
he
question.
also did some really cool custom art for like one of Tim commissioned him to do art for like his best friend.
The Disneyland.
Like, it's so cool, and like there's
awesome.
all the like little Easter eggs in the background and stuff like that. Big fan.
Yep, 100%. His question is, how has working for Kinda Funny been versus your original expectations, and how was your role, or how has your role evolved since starting?
Oh, these are some good questions. So when I first started working for Kinda Funny, I was working remotely and just like 10 hours a week. And I was like still working my like full-time like other job at the time too. So I was kind of trying to balance like a lot of stuff. It wasn't like my favorite to work remotely because it's so much of what we do is like collaborative and like working with each other. So it always a little bit felt like I was like not the person at the office, so I was like the odd person out a little bit. And I think it was hard for them too because I was like the first employee other than Kevin, but so it was like, which Kevin was there from like beginning, all of that stuff. So I think they were like trying to figure out like, oh, how do we even manage somebody that's like not here and remote? So I think it was like some growing pains on both sides. But once I got to Kinda Funny, it's always one of those things that like from the community perspective, like I always saw comments that were like, they just do shows in the morning and then like they don't do anything for the rest of the day. Like what, like they could stream or they could do more shows or like whatever, especially in that sentiment back like 3 and 4 years ago. And then I got there and I'm like, oh no, like everybody's working, even though we do only put out like X number of shows a day or whatever, like there's so much stuff that happens on the back end to make those things work that it's not like, everybody just goes home after in review or whatever. It's like, no, like everyone's like simultaneously trying to like eat lunch, but be on calls or strategize of like, what are we doing for this or whatever. It's just like, it's always like a little bit kind of like a hurricane of like all these different meetings and people moving around and stuff like that. So that was something that I was not expecting. I had also never worked in like a production environment, so that was something new that I had to learn, of just like the nature of how those environments work, of like the tech side of things, and then the post-production side. Like I kind of had to learn all of those inner workings on the fly, which was fun. And then how's my role changed? So yeah, when I started, I was just doing 10 hours a week, like community management. Then I went full-time like 6 months later, and now it's like 2.5 years later now. That's crazy. Because yeah, it'll be my
furniture for ages, honestly.
It's crazy because
In a
yeah,
good way,
2017 is when I started in January, and now we're moving on 2021, which is crazy. I think the weirdest thing that's changed about my job is that like community stuff kind of now is like takes a little bit of a backseat to some of the other stuff, even though my title, we've pretty much just never been able to figure out a good all-encompassing title for what I do, because it's so many like little random things. But yeah, so it's just like I'm like, how do I succinctly put this into like 4 words? And it just like never really works. But yeah, so when I was just focusing on community. Now I do like way more of like our Patreon and post-production stuff, and just like general like kind of strategy stuff with Tim too, which is like actually my favorite. Like being able, especially during quarantine, like having Tim and I both here has been really cool, because we've been able to like brainstorm and do a lot of like strategy and planning for like how we want to change things, especially like when we had to change stuff moving into like everybody being remotely. It was like, oh, like how do we try and keep the like kind of funny feel, even though everybody's not in the
for
same
2
room and
weeks.
stuff like that. I know. It's so funny. I went back yesterday to pack up my desk, just so like we could get things in boxes from the old studio. And I was like, oh my gosh, I have like so many like Post-its and stuff on my desk that I thought I was going to come back to, and I haven't looked at them for like 6 months. So it was just funny to like see, like it just looks like, I don't know, like I don't know if it's Roanoke or whatever, the colony where like everybody just like disappeared, and like you can just see like they had like food on the table and stuff. That's kind of what it felt like walking back in, of like, oh, that Starbucks cup's probably been there for a long time. I don't necessarily want to look to see what happened inside.
On the table as well, or maybe 3 people's foot, including Nick's.
I know, right? Oh my gosh.
Yeah, Roanoke.
Yeah, so it's like all of that kind of, that was just funny. But yeah, so, and like every year the boys are really good about like, hey, let's talk about the things that you do in your job. What are the things that you really like? What are the things that you don't like? Are there any things that happen in like the don't like segment for everybody that we could like shuffle around with different people to like make everybody feel like they enjoy what they do as a whole, like kind of more optimized than it is currently and stuff like that. So they're really good about like, hey, like I want to do more of like the strategy, or help add with like, or helped him with the ad and sales stuff. So like we've kind of tailored my role to like be a little bit more of that stuff, and like some of the sponsored stuff I like help out a little bit more on, because I just find that stuff interesting. So my roles just kind of evolved from like something very specific to like something very general in like a lot of different places. So
if I can follow up from that, actually, before we go into Jesse's question, which I think is really good. You were saying that you had to work remotely. So do you think that helped you with transitioning to work remotely this year with Kind of Funny? And the second one is, what's something that you wish you had known before, coming into community management, and then all the other stuff you do on top of that?
Yeah. I think it helped a little bit, in the sense that like I knew that like it's a lot harder to get answers from people when you work remotely versus when you're in person. Because if you're in person, I can just go stand by Greg's desk, and then he has to answer me. He can't really like, yeah, I'm just standing there. You have to answer me.
Greg's
versus when it's like, I know, it's like, I'm just going to turn my desk so you're out of my eyesight. Versus when you're working remotely, you're like balancing like Slack messages and recordings and stuff like that. So it's not necessarily like as easy to get a hold of people. So I think it gave me like a little bit of insight into that. But there was like also a lot of things when I started working at the beginning that we didn't have in place that we do now. Like we didn't have like our Slack setup or our Discord server, which are like inherently easier ways to communicate with people than email. So I think having those kinds of systems in place for when we all transitioned to go work from home was really helpful, because then we could still have like a little bit of those like random like dumb exchanges that we have in person, but like we could still have those in Slack, so it didn't feel like we were only ever talking to each other about work stuff. Because some of the like water cooler, like when we go out to lunch or we're standing like waiting for the coffee machine, are like the parts that I think at least I was missing the most. So it's been fun to like, now that we have Slack and like we can have like random bullshit conversations.
I love Greg's Slack screenshots. They're just so like,
there's some real funny ones that I don't think we can't always necessarily put them out depending on what we're talking about, because there's fun, exciting things coming up. But if something, I have like a whole folder of things of like, when we can talk about this, we just need to bring this up because they're funny. So I'll see, maybe I can pull out some of those. But yeah, it's always
I can't wait for the Slack screenshot flood that's gonna happen on January 4th.
Oh my gosh, yeah. There's a lot of those.
So
yeah, there's a lot of those.
Yeah, really quick question from Jessie G, who's a Pink Spider Felix. I'd like to know if she'd like to be on content more often, and if so, what content would you like to be in, or for it to look like?
So yes and no. I really, really love doing screencast. So I think that's the thing that I'm like currently missing, because it's all like Mandalorian right now, which like I don't really care about. The thing that's really great about Kind of Funny is like it's kind of open. Like
Joey,
I know.
Oh my god, Joey.
I know. I was just like hoping that I would like be able to skate past that and like.
Guys, I'm gonna head out. Everyone's
telling me that season 2 of Mandalorian is like really good and that I should give it a shot. I just didn't care. So I never finished season 1 because I didn't really care about it.
Really
what about the baby?
What?
The baby's cute.
Really quick. Are you playing Fortnite right now? Do you have the battle pass for Fortnite right now?
I do have the battle pass for Fortnite.
Are you trying to get to 100?
I do want Baby Yoda because he's very cute. But
that's not the reason why you got it, is what you're saying.
No. I got it because everybody else was playing, because we have like me, Blessing, Kevin, Barrett, and Greg have been like kind of on a Fortnite tear. So it was just like, oh, so fun. Like I just want to play with like more people. And I'm like always down to jump into Fortnite. Some of the other skins in the battle pass I think are super cool. And like I've spent way too much money on like the store stuff. So definitely suckered back in. But yeah, Mandalorian specifically wasn't pulling me in. But I love doing screencasts. I love talking about movies. And so I've definitely missed that. Because the thing about Kind of Funny that's really nice is they always ask, like Tim and I have conversations all the time, like, because do you want to be on Mandalorian in review? Do you want to be on The Boys in review? Do you want to be on other things? And I usually say no. I tried to do it for The Boys, but I just realized that like I'm way more of just like a casual viewer, like, oh my gosh, this is really fun. I don't have like a lot of like the insights and like criticisms, and like that's not how I consume content usually. So that's not necessarily like my preferred thing to be on. Because that's just not usually how my brain works. If it's something that like I really like bits and pieces, then I think it'll be easier. But there's not, I don't know. Like some of the streaming stuff that we've been like doing lately, it's always like really fun to like, I think it also helps that like we are all playing games and stuff together more. So it's even when we're just playing us offline, it does seem kind of streamy because everybody is just like amped to be able to talk to each other. And because we do content together 75% of the time anyways, it just has that kind of vibe to it anyways. But I like filling in on the podcast because it's just random like bullshitting, and Internet Explorers would be fun to like pop into just because I have all my TikToks that I would like to force everybody to watch. And yeah, I will say that I do miss like collabing with Nick and Andy on KFAF. That was like one of my favorite parts of the week, just because it was like, what kind of weird things can I force them to do?
It wasn't
like,
your
what can
idea
I convince
to get
them?
pizza in the shower, was it?
No, that was not my idea. One of my favorite
Nick.
one, I was like, yeah, 100% Nick. I was like, what if we make Andy stick his hand in random things that he can't see? And Nick was like, I am sold.
Good.
And that's still like one of my favorite episodes.
Oh my god,
I will say I did not ask Greg to be a part of that. That was all Nick.
That was a great video.
So that was his creative genius. But yeah, there on the game side of things, I don't really have any interest because that's not I may, for as much as I'm like a casual like consumer of content in terms of like movies and TV, I'm even like more casual with gaming. So that's not, unless it's something like, yeah, Stardew Valley or Animal Crossing, then I'm down to like chit chat about it. But yeah,
That's
I
what I
think
really
it's
appreciate on the
fun.
screencast for you, though, is just having that different opinion. Like, say, having you watch other things that the other guys might not have actually watched before. That's why I really appreciate having you on there. It's that's really good when you're on the show. It's
Oh, good.
fantastic.
Yeah. And I feel like screencast is a little bit easier than doing interview in the sense that like I can talk about a movie or a TV series. I think it's when you do like the episode or movie by movie breakdown that I'm like, oh, this isn't my favorite. This is not where my skill set is best used versus I can talk about one holistic thing at a time. So yeah.
Speaking
Some
of Nick,
fun
really
questions.
quick.
Oh
Speaking of
no.
Nick, how does it feel to know that this man is in your mom's house?
It's upsetting. I will say that it's a little bit, it does let me sleep at night to know that it's not that picture of him in the cat
Yeah,
suit.
no, it's not that picture, but it's still Nick. It's still the same guy.
Yeah. The funniest thing is my parents just moved. So I don't even know, like I'm like gonna go spend a couple days with them for Christmas or whatever. But I'm like, I don't know where the Nick picture is. And so that means that in every box that I attempt to open and unpack for my parents, there is like a percentage where like, fuck, this could be the one with Nick
Blue
in
box.
it. And that could
box
just
right
be a
there.
surprising. Yeah. So we'll have to see where his place ends up being at the new house. Cause I don't think like my mom had like this, it was almost like a screen, like a folding screen, but it had picture frames in it. And I don't know where that's going to live now. So we'll have to see. We'll have
Well,
to
talking
see.
of screencast, I think Phil Kessel, and I think who else was it? Luke had some good questions in relation to screencast.
Yeah.
Have you got it, Phil? Yeah.
So Kessel asks, has she listened to the Gilmore Guys podcast? First of all,
Yes, I have. Oh my gosh, love Kevin T. Porter and Demi. They're so fun. I haven't listened to. I never I didn't listen to all of it. I kind of.
The audio cut out.
Yeah, we lost
Sorry.
audio.
Oh, I accidentally hit my mute.
Oh.
I forget this at the top of this as I was moving a cord. So yeah, I've like kind of picked and chose which episodes of Gilmore Guys to listen to based on like which episodes I really like of the show. So I didn't listen to all of them all the way through, but they're so good. And like even individually, Kevin and Demi like do some really fun like creative projects. So I feel like as the years have gone on, I've actually like grown to be like bigger fans of them to see their other projects. Like Demi wrote for a little bit on, I think, The Good Place, like in a couple of the later seasons and stuff like that. So like now I think it'd be really fun to go back and listen to them like, oh, before you guys like even did anything, you just had this one podcast. But yeah, it's really good. They're fun.
So the next part of Kessel's question is, what are your thoughts on the Gilmore Girls Netflix revival?
Oh. I really liked the idea of it. I did not love it in actuality. I think they made some like interesting character decisions, like, and I feel like rewatching or watching the Gilmore Girls through the seasons or whatever they called it, was interesting because it made me realize that I don't really care about Rory as a character, like the daughter. I was like, oh, she kind of sucks. Which like when you're watching like the older seasons and like with such a nostalgic view, it's like, oh, of course, like, and because like I was like her age or a little, I guess I was a little bit younger, that she was on the show when I was like watching it when it was on. I was like, oh my gosh, this is so cool. And then watching it back now as like kind of an adult, I was like, oh, you kind of suck. And it's like a little bit hard too because I didn't love the last season of Gilmore Girls. So I think the stuff that they did now was like kind of trying to retcon some of the stuff, but you couldn't fully retcon like a lot of the stuff that I didn't like because the original writers didn't write on the last season, and then they came back for this. So I think they were trying to like fix things around choices that they hadn't made for characters. But there is like some things I really liked of, I think it's like the third episode where they bring back the Life and Death Brigade, which was like this like fun college like secret society that they talked about in like some of their Yale years and stuff like that. Oh, there's Moose scratching on my door. So there were some things that I liked about it. I didn't like how they ended it, but I'm always gonna like hope that they do it again and like nail it. And even though I probably won't like it, and it'll turn into like a Fuller House kind of situation where it's like everybody knows that it's not as good, but everybody just likes these characters.
Well, in that
It's the
same
hope that
vein,
kills you.
in that same vein,
Yeah.
Pencil Weeks asks. He has a lot of questions about Gilmore Girls, if you can believe it.
Oh my
If
God,
there
I'm
was
so
a
excited.
reboot, who would you cast?
A reboot. That's so interesting.
Yes.
So there is like kind of a weird reboot. It's called something. It's not Gilmore Girls, obviously, but it's something with like another G and G name show, Netflix. I don't think it's out yet. I think it's just like I
In
can't
Breggy?
find it. I don't know. It's
It's in
not
the
like
UK.
Grace
It's
and
called
Frankie, but it's
George's
something like that.
Goodfellas.
But it's like the same
Game
premise.
show.
Where it's like a young like mother and daughter, and they're like like on paper it seems like the exact same show. So I am like a little bit curious to know like what that'll be. I don't know who I would cast in a younger one. So I watched the Babysitters Club reboot on Netflix this year, which I know is not my age demographic, but I love those books growing up. And I think that a lot of the like younger girl actors on there were really good. So I would maybe pick one of those, like maybe I mean, they're like a little bit too young, so we would have to like do some finagling. But I don't know who I would pick for the mom. I feel like we're in a weird thing where like the people, like the actors that are like my age now are now the mom characters, but I still think of them as like, oh, like Sophia Bush on One Tree Hill, like you're still like the young teenager girl, but now you should probably play a mom because that makes sense. So yeah, maybe I would like cross over older actors from my favorite other TV shows, like Sophia Bush. She's really fun. I like her. She's also on like Chicago PD right now, or one of those like weird cop medical fire like cinematic universe shows. But yeah, I feel like I would pick someone like her and then maybe like a nobody person for the younger daughter.
And then from there, Kessel asks, when can we expect a Gilmore Girls in review for screencast?
And just give the follow-up one as well whilst you're at it.
And then how do you think Rory and Lorelai would and Stars Hollow would handle 2020, like the pandemic?
Oh my gosh.
I love how
wish...
like I understand nothing of this right now. Kessel, what have you done?
We'll knock them all out at the same time. I wish we could get like TV shows. I know, right? I wish that we could get like one-off TV shows showing how all the different characters handled the pandemic, because I think Seinfeld would be super funny. I think the Stars Hollow crew would be really funny. I think like The Good Place, if they figured it out, like I don't know. I think Arrested Development. I feel like all of these shows could have like really funny seasons.
The Office would be amazing.
The pandemic. Oh my gosh, yes, exactly.
Friends, but like when Joey and Chandler live together.
Yeah, exactly. Like all of these different like interpersonal conflicts around this, I think would be good. I think that Luke would probably be like, I don't want to say a COVID denier because that seems like really extreme, but I think he'd be like, we live in a small town, it's not a big deal. And he would try and stay open. Then I think Lorelai would just be holed up.
Oh no.
Oh no.
Oh no.
First ever technical difficulty.
I think that's not the first ever technical difficulty, but the
here's the thing. It's not a real Joey appearance on a show until my Discord crashes.
You can take the girl out kind of funny, but you can't take the kind of funny out of the girl. That's for sure.
I've seen a lot of
exactly.
That's not even,
every time my Discord.
It's not even the first crash we've had today, so you're fine.
Yeah.
Really? Fuck me.
Okay.
Really? I crashed on my end during the last episode. It was bad.
It's not even like the. I've seen a lot of kind of funny podcasts in quarantine. I can't go like 2 episodes without somebody crashing.
I know. It just happens.
Yeah,
Lorelai, I think, would be fine because she would just be in her house watching movies, eating takeout like she normally does. And then I feel like Emily, which is the grandma, would be like crazy and like in a full hazmat suit and Lysol at all times.
No help in the house whatsoever. She'd just fire everybody.
Exactly. Like, nope, everybody's gone. I'm living in one section of the house, and that's it. And I feel like Kirk would just continually try and figure out different businesses to help people through COVID, but they would be really not helpful because that's kind of what he does.
Lorelai's been practicing for this her entire life, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And
awesome.
Lukewarm Lewis asks, sorry, go ahead, Caesar.
No, I was gonna say I will throw out. Ben has a podcast called Official Unofficial, where right now they're reviewing what is it again? New Girl.
New Girl and
Avid listener, clearly.
Ooh,
So it's like maybe we could work with Ben and Al, the
That's
sort of the
true.
tribesman. The
Oh, we'd love to have you on
Oh.
for an episode for that.
Evelina.
That'd be amazing.
So
oh yeah, I'm super
Maybe-
into it. I haven't rewatched New Girl in a long time, but I really liked it.
wait, what was the thing you recently tweeted? Like if Mighty Ducks.
Oh my gosh, yeah. I really want to do Mighty Ducks in review to go along with the new series that's coming out on Disney Plus. Here's the thing. I want to do a lot of in review series. So Gilmore Girls is not currently on my list because I know that that's a big ask and nobody else will want to do it except for like maybe Kevin, because I feel like Kevin's always kind of down.
Well, Castle.
Yeah.
Yes,
And
oh my-
then that's true. But the in review series I really want to do is Mighty Ducks going into Disney Plus, and then I want to do Magic Mike in review because I think Nick telling the plot for Magic Mike in review
Yes.
would be so funny and really
Yes.
fun. And then I also want to do Mamma Mia in review, but that's a whole separate thing.
He just
So
wears the.
we've got a Mamma Mia related question
Yes.
in a bit that we'll get to.
Ooh. Okay.
Oh, yeah, Camille, sorry to step on your foot.
But yeah, I think Nick doing the plot, and I think the Magic Mike movies are really fun. So I think it could be like a dumb, silly one that we do because it's only like 2 movies. So like if we needed to like fill gaps between other things, I think it would be perfect.
I can't wait for the costumes on that interview.
Oh man,
It's
I
just-
don't know
it's
if I can
so
how
good.
much I can rope them in. I know. I
The
don't. I
elaborate
feel like
pageantry, you know?
yes, but I feel like I could also get them in like different themed costumes. Like somebody's in like the suit, weird necktie thing that's like not a suit, obviously, because they're not wearing clothes because they're strippers. And then like one's in like a firefighter costume and like all these different
Yes.
things. I feel like this could be really fun.
This has to happen now. It's got to happen.
I'm working
Oh
on
my
it.
God.
I'm
Just
pushing
imagine if
really
you guys
hard.
can get Joe Magniello to guest on one of those episodes. That would be incredible.
Or Kevin Nash too, because he's a wrestler, right?
True.
Maybe I think he
True.
is, and I feel like I don't know.
That'd be amazing.
Well, talking of... Sorry, go ahead, Gage.
No, I was gonna say I would 100% watch that review series. Like those movies. Me and Largent, another member of Simply Sassy, my actual real life best friend, we watched them as a joke because they're on Netflix. It's like, let's watch Magic Mike. Let's just do it. And we watched the first one. We're like, oh my God, was that a good movie? Let's watch the second one. We watched that one too. We're like, oh God, is this one good too? It was crazy.
I think I like the second one more than the first one too,
Same
which is
here.
crazy.
Same here.
Yeah, but I think the second one just doubles down of like, oh, we don't really care about plot
It was
like
just
a
more of
whole
a fun
lot. Like we
movie.
don't need that much character development. We just want to
Yeah.
have like a fun movie, and that's exactly what it is.
Talking about having guests on the Sasscast, Fitz Patel asks, what guests do you want to have next year on
That's
kind
a
of funny
great
content?
question. I for years.
I'm available all year, by the way. Just
Perfect.
Sure. Talk about
I've wanted
Overwatch.
to. I know, right? I've been wanting to get Lana Condor and Jordan Fisher separately on kind of funny content for pretty much as long as I've known that they've existed. Because I think Lana Condor would be really fun to talk about To All the Boys, First Class, and like X-Men stuff. Like she's done a lot of really cool stuff, and now she's like doing YouTube stuff. So I feel like that could be a cool thing. And then Jordan Fisher has so many overlaps with Kind of Funny. It's like super crazy. Like he was in Hamilton, has done Broadway stuff, which like I'm super into, and like Barrett is to a degree. Then you have all the streaming stuff. So I feel like that would be really fun. He was in To All the Boys. He was in like Disney Channel original movies, which I know Tim would be stoked on. And so like there's just like all of these overlaps where I'm like, you seem like a cool dude. That would be really fun. So those are the two like semi-realistic-y ones, I feel like. Because like I think Jordan follows Greg on Twitter. So like I feel like we could maybe finagle something like that. My like pie in the sky guest is always going to be Chrissy Teigen. Because I just want to talk to her about how she got all the stars or all her moons and Animal Crossing and all of that stuff. I think that would be really fun. And the fact that she's like never really collabed with anybody on gaming content is kind of crazy.
Feels like she just came out of nowhere and started talking about games, and everyone was like, "Wait, what?"
I know. Yeah. And then on that level too would be AOC. Brie Larson would be really fun. I'm not like a huge Brie Larson fan in the sense that like,
oh my god,
know, like,
not you too,
work.
really?
No, I was just
like, it's not in a bad way. It's just like I only really know her for Captain Marvel and Scott Pilgrim, and like that's kind of it.
Yeah, I was gonna say you, Chrissy Teigen and Brie Larson talking about Animal Crossing is something else.
Oh my gosh, that'd be so fun. Yeah, but that's like a hard one to nail down in terms of.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and then yeah, AOC is like also kind of on that level of like now that she's doing like weird game streams. Yeah, I think that she's super interesting. But I also feel like I would maybe want to talk to her also about like non-political things. Just because she seems cool.
Yeah.
And like
during Among Us, she was giving like a huge backstory to the planet and what their mission was and everything like that. So yeah, definitely.
I know. Yeah, I think she'd be really fun.
On the flip side of that, this comes from Mark Freeman at the Indie Boy 1. What is a cool story about hanging out with the community? Like your favorite community story?
My favorite community story, man. I feel like there's so many. I mean, my favorite weeks of the year. I was literally just talking to Tim about this. Of like, oh, I miss planning live events. Like, when do you think we're going to be able to do live events again? Because now it's been like 2.5 years since we've done a live event, since we didn't do any in 2019 because we were doing the world tour. Those are really fun, but like also really stressful because there's way more of you in these cities than we originally thought we planned. So it's just like massive amounts of people, especially like in New York and the later ones. But yeah, Kind of Funny Live Week is my favorite because there's so many people like in the city, and it's just like so many random adventures of like the baseball game, but then we just end up going to the bar after or something like that. It's like I kind of try not to plan anything that week just because there's so many fun, like it's just fun to walk around the city or go to like all the spontaneous events and stuff like that. I don't know that I necessarily have like one favorite one because they're all fun. I'm trying to think. I do think the baseball game might be my favorite just because it was like we had a whole section to ourselves. So everybody was just like shenanigans and nobody really cared about the game, which I understand because it's a day game and they weren't playing a team that was very good. So everybody's just, and like, I think it was one of the first days that everybody was like in town. So it was like a reunion. And like, it felt like every time somebody new like walked up to the section, like everybody cheered because it was like, oh, like we don't necessarily know who you are, but you're one of us and this is exciting. So I just like that feel to like all of the live events. I think it's like even with like conventions and stuff like that, I miss just like walking around and like whether it be like seeing people in our merch from like across the way, so like they don't necessarily see us, or like just even at restaurants or just like walking through the halls and stuff like that, being able to see people, which is always so fun.
Just talking
about baseball, now that I think about it,
because I know you're a good because I know you're a baseball fan. Do you miss going to games, and is it the Giants next year?
I don't know. The Giants have been like in this weird rebuilding year for what seems like 3 years. So it's hard to tell. It's funny because I feel like I go to less games now that I live here than I did when I lived in Orange County. And I don't know why or how. Like Orange,
you would have thought like you being in San Francisco and supporting the
I'd be at games like, all the time.
Yeah, all the time.
I know. But there is something about, I guess, I don't know. San Francisco's, I guess I've never lived in a city ever, like I've usually lived in like suburby type places and stuff like that. So it's like, I think I overestimated how easy it would be to like get downtown to go to games. And now living here, it's just like, oh, this is like a trek. And I have to take all of these like different public transportation systems, but it's also like after work. So they're packed and it's like kind of a hassle. Versus like when I was in Orange County, we would go to like Angels games all the time in Anaheim, like right by Disneyland, because it was like, oh, we could just drive and it was easy and stuff like that. So I feel like I need to put more planning into going games here, which then just inevitably means that I don't go to as many. But I feel like I have been like missing that. I don't know. I miss group activities. And that's what I feel like next year, whenever we have vaccines and stuff like that, is going to be my year of like, no, let's go to concerts. Let's go to games. Like, I would like to be smooshed with strangers.
Just make the most of it, really. Because there's so many times where I'm like, oh, I'll do this, I'll do that. And I say to myself, I'm too tired, I'll do it next time. And what really hit me this year is not realizing, I took advantage of all these things. So yeah, just make the most of it whenever we get the opportunities to. Yeah.
Isn't Hunter Pence like back in San Francisco now?
He retired, didn't he?
So he's like back. I think they're still here in the city, like living, but he's not
but he retired.
playing for the team. Yeah. Oh. I have a feeling, based on absolutely nothing, no information whatsoever, that like the Giants will like probably offer him like a 1-day contract so he can retire as a Giant. That's what I would assume, but maybe not.
So
or maybe he'll get hired on as like clubhouse helper or coach or something. I don't know.
I have a question from a community member. 2 questions actually. Community member, a big comer. Nobody's like ever really heard of her, but she's making her way in this world. Elise Willems. At Elise Willems.
Oh, I have heard about some of the really inventive stuff she's doing.
One day she'll
very
get
grassroots.
There, She's trying. She's working so hard, and one day she'll make it. She asked the first question she asked with the Michael Scott GIF is, "Why are you the way you are?"
Did you just call it GIF?
He did.
Well, who cares?
I'm going to kick him out of the server. That was the last straw. I can't believe this.
That's it. Yeah, Elise and I have bonded over our love for The Office. Me and her and Andy have like a group chat that like doesn't get pinged very often, but it's always inevitably when one of us are watching The Office and it's just like a funny quote or something like that. So I appreciate that she sent that in.
The next question, the real question, she says, is you can only pick one franchise: Fast and the Furious or Mamma Mia. What do you choose?
Elise, why do you do this to me? It's really unfair and I don't like it. So here's the thing. I'm going to pick Fast and the Furious because without Mamma Mia, ABBA, the band, and their music still exists. But if I get rid of Fast and Furious, there's like no, like they're just gone. There's nothing.
There's probably no Kind of Funny at that point, frankly.
I know, literally nothing. There's no Corona beer as a brand loses all of its business. Like there's just nothing.
And also, like if she said Mamma Mia, Tim would have to kick her out sooner.
Probably.
That's true.
Yeah.
Yeah, Mamma Mia, I love and adore, and it's my favorite. But because the music still exists outside of it, I feel like I have to pick family.
Whilst we're on hot takes, Lukewarm Lewis asks, what are Joey's hot takes on the current season of The Bachelorette? That was hard to say.
You'll get there one day.
Bachelorette.
Yeah. This season.
Man, Bachelorette this year has been so weird. I will say that I have to make a global apology because I talked a lot of shit about the guys that were on The Bachelorette this year at the beginning. I was like, this is the worst group of guys that they've ever picked for Bachelor, blah, blah, blah. But then Claire left and then Tayshia came in and then all of a sudden I loved these guys because they were really excited about Tayshia. I'm like, oh, you don't really suck. You just probably didn't like Claire. Plus she had like weird dynamic and
Jesus.
Like she just had she was just so weird. Like she got really mad at the guys because they didn't all jump up to like steal her away the first night. And they were like, I think they were still trying to figure out the dynamics of like, no, you, no, me, no, you. But then she got really mad. And then she like called out this guy from like pulling away from a kiss, which like it's a video. We're literally all watching it. And that's not what he did. But then she just left and then sent Chris Harrison to the rest of their date at the night and told him to go home. And it's just like, I don't like you. Claire's not my favorite. But yeah, I don't have like any like hot takes because I'm not super. I don't know. I feel like I'm just so much happier now that it's Tayshia. And
he just wanted to clip you out on Twitter and be like, "Oh, look at Joey's
I know.
hot takes."
I know, right? Oh my gosh, I can't wait till you tag Claire and Tayshia in it, and I just get roasted for being anti-Claire. But
her
I also just didn't.
Claire.
Yeah, pretty much. I also didn't watch any of the seasons that Claire was on previously, so I had like no attachment to her as a lead. Versus Tayshia, I really liked on like Bachelor in Paradise and stuff. So
on that note,
hard to compete.
Oh, go on, Caesar. What are you gonna say?
I was gonna say. So on that note, is there a show, like a reality show or whatever show that you've been binging recently? Like you?
Oh, I watched so much Vanderpump Rules that it's like actually not okay. I think I watched all 7.
Thing? What the hell is that?
So it's a Bravo, which is like really like some of the trashiest TV show we have in the States.
Okay,
it's Ken and Lisa Vanderpump. Yeah. Oh, that's also true. So it's Lisa Vanderpump from Real Housewives of Beverly Hills. It's about all the like restaurants that she opens in West
Okay.
Hollywood. She has like restaurants in like she's from the UK, so I think she has like quite a few in like England, maybe London specifically. I don't
Yeah, I
really
just
know.
had dinner from there yesterday. Yeah.
Really?
No, I don't know
No.
who she is.
I was like, oh my gosh, what? That would be the craziest thing. But yeah, so it's just like about her restaurants, and like her restaurants is all about like having like hot young like wannabe actors and actresses like being servers at the restaurants. So they're all like dumb and hook up with each other's partners and like all this kind of stuff. It's like it's top tier trash TV, but it's really good. I'm trying to get Gia to watch it right now. It's not working out too well for
We all
me. I
need
think
some
she
trash
committed to
TV.
something else. Yeah, but I watched like 7 seasons of that in like 2 months, and these are like seasons of hour-long episodes with like 20 plus episodes a season. It was really bad, guys. I'm glad that I've made it through to the other side.
That's a lot of time.
Yeah.
Manuel Aguilar follows up and says, "Who in the office would win an in real life? Thank you, Caesar. In real life battle royale, and why is it Kevin?"
It's always Kevin. It's 100% Kevin.
Okay,
because Kevin,
better question. Who would die first?
Who would die first? I feel like it might be Tim in the sense that he would just be like, no, like I'm not doing this.
He'll be like bleeding out, and like Kevin's trying to help him, and like, don't touch me, Kevin, don't touch me, Kevin.
Exactly. No, I think Tim would just be like, I don't want to do this. I am not. I know my fate in this, and I will just accept it.
Tim would go to Kevin and be like, "You're probably the only person that could probably do this as painless as possible." So just end it.
Oh, it'll go horribly wrong. It'll go horribly wrong. There's anything we know about Kevin.
It will go horribly wrong.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. Cool Greg would just. Well, here's the other thing. I do feel like Cool Greg has a chance at winning because he would just disappear and nobody would know where he went, and that would be hard. So it might just end up being Kevin versus Cool Greg at the end.
Kevin would die of starvation.
I will say that I think that Greg is also gonna die early.
Resourceful.
I feel like Greg would die early just because he's so loud that he would try and do something and then start wheeze laughing and give away his like, position. So I don't think that he would last very long either.
The image of Ronald McDonald's Greg and like running around with that
terrifying.
Wait, what Greg would win? What Greg
would win?
Yes, because
between Cool Greg and Greg Miller?
Greg Miller personas. Because Greg has a lot of personas.
Oh,
like Watto, McGonagall.
I think the Grabbler would probably have the best chance of winning.
I mean, if the Grabbler can hide in popcorn, you can hide in anything at that point. So
I know the Grabbler has a lot of tricks up his sleeve, so it would be hard.
Talking of characters, Al Bob asks, "Who's your favorite KF created character?" Examples being like Johnny A, Smoke Mummy. Why would you put Smoke Mummy as one of the options, Al Bob? And the Grabbler.
And then I respond to Al, "What do you mean characters? Those are all real people."
My favorite kind of funny. I mean, they're all favorites in different ways in the sense that I think the Grabbler is the most interesting and weird. I think Milk Mommy is the most entertaining because there's no, like in any sort of like Photoshop or reference or anything like that, it's always funny. It's like, it's never not
Please
funny.
Don't say that in front of Ben. Please.
It's never not funny.
It's always funny. And I know
what's funny about it is like,
everyone's always
no
like,
context.
no, you're beating the joke into the ground. No, it's always funny.
Like,
yeah, I thought it was by now, but it isn't. It's still
we've
good.
told Nick this. I think we told Blessing and Snowbike Mike this. There are like piles more photoshops, especially of Milk Mommy, that never see the light of day because Ben shows us and we say, "This is awful.
No.
Burn it."
Baby Mummy nearly got lost to history if it wasn't for Phil.
That's
I
right.
told you we need to put a warning before that show, okay?
Yeah.
I warned you about
that one was funny though.
Joey, I'll send you the picture of Baby Mummy.
Perfect. I would love to see
it's
it.
You mix Milk Mummy with the baby from Death Stranding, and you get that, you know.
Oh no.
Yeah.
Also, it was also very funny to me that Greg like made his cyberpunk character and then it ended up being Kevin, but nobody realized it until everybody posted about it. I was like, this is very funny.
I was blown away. I was looking at it. I'm like, why are they saying it's Kevin? And I blew up the image and I was like, Oh shit, that's Kevin.
It's kind of Kevin.
So
and
good.
then Johnny Ace is, I have a love-hate relationship with the Ace, as many of us do.
You have to love it now.
I know I know now he has his own football team, and we're really just never going to get that ego back in a box. But he's always entertaining to have around. I like how much he antagonizes Greg, because we don't get enough of that sometimes. You know, usually it's Greg poking other people, but sometimes it's fun
That's very true.
to watch.
I like how Blessing's come in now and is also fucking with Greg quite a bit now.
Oh my
He's just-
God,
Oh my
yes.
gosh,
I love
yeah.
that dynamic.
Gary Whitta too.
Yeah.
So
Everybody.
speaking of like ego, how much money, either on Patreon or like Extra Life, would it take for you to play Mario Party with Nick again? Because that guy has an ego in that game. That guy, and it's for the kids too. It's for the kids.
It would take a lot of money. Like a lot
January
of
4th,
money.
baby, let's go. You know,
Kind of
Gonna have
funny
to break
day,
records.
Mm.
I'm just seeding ideas.
is
I'm
a
just putting in
great-
ideas for a kind of funny day or Extra Life.
Yeah. I don't know. Like we'd have to raise. See, I can't even say like $100,000 because, as crazy as that sounds as a number, like we've already done that for like Extra Life, so I don't feel like it's that crazy anymore.
Yeah.
I feel like it would have to be like $150,000 for me to do
It actually
that.
speaks volume to like how reluctant you are to give a number. To how much you wanna take away from it.
Yeah, no, this is like a real, like legitimate, like off-camera conversation we had where I was like, I'm never playing this game with you ever again.
Even at 150, you're still hesitant. You're like, oh,
I know.
Let's 50 just to be safe, because like that's because wasn't it 130 this year? Extra Life.
Yeah. And we haven't even
So
like finished out the
crazy.
year. It could be higher than that by the end of it.
You heard
Um,
it here first, folks. We have like what 6 days to get 150.
Do it, cowards.
Oh no, she means from 0 to 150 again. I don't think
Yeah.
she means cumulatively. Yeah, no.
No, the
Yeah.
year's not over.
No,
The year's
I
not
Still
over.
big
wouldn't
no to that.
commit to, we would have to like have that as a goal at the beginning.
Yes.
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh, and I'm so glad that I said that because we've raised $156,000 for Extra Life this year. So I'm very glad that I made that qualification before.
That's perfect.
Yeah.
Please be excited, Ben. You've always got this one question you ask everybody. What is that question?
Here we go.
Oh, I do. Here we go. So, Joey,
Ooh.
He's
So-
sitting up.
You can hear it. Yeah.
I am. So I've got this question that I ask everyone. So it's about Greg Miller and the fact that
Okay.
Greg Miller is everywhere at all times. So I want to know, I've got
Yes.
this theory that he possibly could be an android, he could be an alien of some kind. We've had
Yeah.
Nick, who said he might be some sort of demon. Blessing said that he might be some sort of doppelganger. We just had Ryan on from Final Fantasy VII Remake. He's a voice actor on that. He said he might be some sort of species entirely different to our own. So I'd like to know, have you got any sort of evidence or any kind of theories around what Greg Miller could potentially be?
So I think, did you guys watch that movie, The Master of Disguise?
Yes.
Yes.
I forget
Yes.
who is that exactly is in it, other than I remember that he just had all of these like crazy costumes and would just blend in everywhere. Now I have to look it up. Master of Disguise. I think that Greg is a human being, but I think that he has a huge team and arsenal that is able to conceal that he's Greg Miller so that he's able to torture other people in different ways. Like, real talk, if I would have just seen that like Ronald McDonald walking down the street, I don't know that I would have been able to tell you immediately that it was Greg.
No.
So I think
Have
that
to wait for him
he's
to
just,
start laughing.
yeah, exactly. I mean, there's some tells, like obviously he's like so tall that like that kind of, it's hard to play with that necessarily, but I do think that he, and I do believe Jen is wrapped up in this, Portillo, Lucy James probably too, where they're concealing this like mass team of people to conceal Greg as all of these side characters.
Oh, I like this. I like that.
I think that they're working maybe on transitioning to prosthetics to like change his face a little bit and change that. But that's my theory. I
That's
do
fair.
believe that he is also maybe crafted a pact with the devil, as we saw in that
The
one
Nidhogg
Let's Play.
video.
And
Oh,
exactly.
God,
I do
so
think
good.
that plays into it, but I don't think he's like full on a demon. I just think he like maybe has like a crossroads demon that he like calls in favors for.
He had
It's
his
kind of like anime where he's got the power. He just like puts that 50%. You know, he just controls the power level of the devil.
he probably had his
Exactly.
genie moment. He was like, hey, you know, I want over 1 million followers. I want The Rock to know who I am, and don't fuck with me.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. But
I was
maybe
so scared in
he,
that video that
Genie
someone was
was
going to walk
Kevin.
around the corner.
but the other thing is, has he figured out a way to get more wishes? And now he's just like stowing those away for a rainy day.
For everybody's sake, I hope not.
Yeah.
I know. That's the thing that I worry about with
So-
Greg Miller.
I have like a serious-ish, more like, because these have all been fun questions, and like there have been some serious questions in here. But like, I want to get like a more
Mhm.
serious question about like life in the office. What is it like being the
Uh-huh.
only female in Kind of Funny? And would you like to see more female and people of color representation in Kind of Funny, so to speak? Not even like on camera,
Yes.
but like even behind the scenes.
Oh yeah, like I would obviously like love to have more women in the office. I think like that's something that we talk about all the time. Anytime we're ever talking about like, oh, what if we bring in this person for the show or this person for the show? It's always the conversation of like, we know that we need more women in the office and on the Kind of Funny team in general, both on camera and behind the scenes and stuff like that. So I would obviously love that. I do miss Andrea because it was always fun to like have a buddy. But it's like honestly, at least for me, it's like it's not that like it doesn't feel like a boys club or like anything like crazy like that. Like they're actually like anytime it's like any of these jokes or stuff like that, we obviously just like kind of play it up a little bit because it's a better story and stuff like that. But for the most part, it's like not
You're just family.
particularly crazy. Yeah. And I think too, like the more that we add newer voices, I could see how like maybe people would have thought that more when like in the earlier days when it was just the boys and like me. But now that we've added like Andy and Barrett and Blessing and like there's just so many more people and stuff like that it does balance out so that it's
Yeah.
I think
not
Joey
like
just
that.
wants
Now
like a separate. Sorry, I was gonna say you just want a separate bathroom. We don't have to see like a painting of
that's
Kevin on the wall.
100% all I want. All I want is
The new
more than
office?
one bathroom.
Are you excited for the new
And,
office?
like, I think we have 2 in the new office because I think like legally we have to have more than one bathroom in the like based on the number of people or like the space size or something like that. Yeah, it doesn't feel like a boys club. The only separation that it really felt like, and this was mostly before Blessing joined, just based on like the orientation of the office, is that Greg, Nick, and Tim had like the back rooms, and then it was me and Andy were like face to face, and then it was Cool Greg and Barrett like across the aisle, and then Kevin was in his little thing. So
Closet.
that feels like because that was like the new class of people, and so like we would have fun. And like I remember Greg telling us one day, he was like, oh yeah, it was weird to like be in the back and like hearing you guys have conversations and like inside jokes with each other that like he didn't know. It's like, oh, you guys like have your own thing, and it's not just like everybody's like building all of their like individual relationships and stuff like that. That's the stuff that I miss the most about not being in the office, is just like those dumb little things of like Andy poking his head out from like on top of his computer, and or like Kevin and I fucking with Andy, because that also happens sometimes too.
How big do you see Kind of Funny going? Because I think I remember it must have been like Greg or somebody. It's like it'll get bigger but not too big, type of thing.
Yeah, I don't think it'll get. I definitely don't think they want like 300 people working at Kind of Funny.
No, it's not gonna be Rooster Teeth. Yeah.
No, I say that like I see Kind of Funny probably doubling what we are now, maybe a little bit more. I feel like we don't ever get bigger than maybe like 25 people, 20 people, something like that. I think eventually we're gonna need like more editors to do stuff. I think potentially like maybe more people to do talent kind of things. Maybe somebody like more like directly managing like post-production. I'm trying to think of what else. Maybe somebody to like help Tim with like salesy stuff. I'm trying to think of like, I think
Yeah.
between like all of those kinds of things, maybe we would be all set. Maybe somebody like handling like our PR coordination, because right now Greg does all of that.
So not necessarily something on
Which
camera, but
makes
like
sense
somebody
because he
like
like knows everybody, but it's also like, oh, you do a lot of things, Greg. Like maybe we try and pull.
Well, it's
some
not
things off
Greg.
your plate
We've
that,
established there's like
we do.
multiple people that disguise as different.
To be fair, there are already
That's
30
true,
employees
I
at Kind of
know.
Funny.
So yeah,
So
Talking
not
about
necessarily
you-
like on camera, but like behind the scenes. More.
yeah. I think a little bit both.
Come
I
on.
think we need some more on-camera people too, especially if you're like going to diversify and add women. I think it would be important to add those non-male
100%.
voices. So yeah,
Joey for
Versus-
all
Bachelor in
things we think
Review.
about. Oh, I want to do that so bad. There's nothing that Tim/I want more than just a reason to talk about The Bachelor for an hour every week. on camera.
Yeah, I'll definitely say that I sorely miss Andrea for the Games Daily content. Like it was
Yeah.
always really nice to have her on those, and obviously you can go to What's Good Games to get that kind of perspective. But I always liked the
Totally.
bouncing off of the kind of funny kind of idea, in that respect.
Yeah. And yeah, I think, yeah, it's just fun. It's fun to see people like Andrea, like in the different dynamics that she like built with Greg versus when she hosted with Tim. And like, she never hosted with Blessing or like Imran or Gary,
She
like
did,
everybody.
but it was in quarantine.
Okay. In
There
quarantine.
was just once, I
Yeah.
think.
Yeah. So it's like, it's fun to see like those different pairings build and kind of
Uh-huh.
have different dynamics. Cause like even now, like the Tim and Blessing one, I think is really fun right now. Seeing them, all of their like similarities and differences and stuff like that. I think that they have like a fun vibe.
Yeah, the Tim Blessing Games dailies are some of my favorites right now.
It's a great
Yeah.
combo.
Tim
yeah,
always
just
has this
about-
weird energy about him that just comes out when Blessing's there, and I just love it. Honestly, just love it.
Some of it's
Yeah,
Blessing. I
agreed.
think some of it is Kevin. It's a little bit of everything,
I just miss when like the morning show was on before Games Daily, and Andrew would have to like interrupt the morning show.
Yeah. It's 11 or whatever it was.
Just hear that terrifying cat come out of nowhere, the meowing
yeah,
cat. You're like,
so
oh
long.
no, not the
Oh my
cat.
gosh. Well, and the funny
thing.
thing is that you guys couldn't necessarily hear it, but the signal, at least when I would host with like Nick, would be you could hear her heels like clacking.
That's
And so-
terrifying.
you could hear them from the back room coming out, and it was like, well, clearly Andrea's the only one in here wearing heels. So you could like that was almost like even scared because it was the anticipation of like, oh no, mom's coming. But yeah, we gotta get Andrea on more stuff, especially now that we're doing more remote things. The problem is that there's like almost too many hosts right now because normally we have like a big rotation of people because everybody's traveling or doing preview events or something like that. But because those haven't really been happening, we don't get. There's not as many reasons to pull in other people for the show. But hopefully, with like things, fingers crossed, going back to normal next year, we'll get some fun random mix-ups. I know because like Fran hasn't even really been on Games Daily.
Yeah.
Been doing a ton of stuff with us lately.
Well,
Generally, in your content for this year, you've had a lot more guests on, and I think it's because instead of having to thinking that you had to have them physically in the space, you've actually brought them on in terms of like on Discord and stuff like that, and that's been hugely beneficial, I think, for Kind of Funny. Just shifting to bringing guests on like on a sort of video call rather than expecting them to be on a sort of like face-to-face sort of basis. So
Give us
that's
the X-Cast,
little
Mike.
comment.
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been really fun, especially with like us, because now we have like a Discord server that we use for like the shows and stuff like that. But it's fun even because like we don't use it for really anything other than shows. Like a lot of like our messages and stuff are like just in Slack. But it's fun to see like when we get a notification, like I was working one day and I was like, I heard the like server join noise and it was like Dr. Lupo. I was like, why is Dr. Lupo in our server? Like what's going on? The same thing when like with Pete Hines. And so it's just like one of those fun things where it's like, because of the nature of like just being able to like jump into a call, I feel like has those like weird kind of like
It's like Smash DLC, isn't it? Just seeing like
think-
some kind of like
yeah. It's like what is happening?
I go through the same thing in this server because I don't know anything that goes on. I don't know what shows they're recording. And then out of nowhere, I just see
That
Nick
makes three of us.
Scarpino joined in the Simply Sassy server. What? I got a heart attack. And then
And you're like,
the
what
next
is happening?
the next week it was I didn't see Blessing's notification, but I saw Greg's, and I got so scared. I was like, what's going on?
Is that
We
why
were
we didn't
scared
hear
too.
from you for like 3
Everything.
days? He was just like on the floor, like paralyzed,
Recovering.
like what? Yeah.
Been like our secret plan all
Actually-
along. We're slowly just trying to poach everyone from Kind of Funny into our server, and then we're just gonna one day rebrand it to
Real-
Kind of Funny just to confuse everybody.
Oh my
The real Kind of Funny
gosh.
server.
That would be so confusing.
It's like the Vivendi takeover,
Yeah, stop takeover.
We've got 50 minutes
So good.
left, and I've got
But
a couple
actually-
of questions for Joey. But does anyone else in the server got any questions?
I wanted to say
quick ones.
Cool.
Yeah, I want to say one thing as well.
Oh, you go for yourself.
Thank you. So that actually leads into a great question from me, like talking about having somebody hop into the Discord call. It has such a different energy than Greg, like just calling someone on his phone for an episode in the office.
Yeah.
And that leads me into, how has it been for you kind of being on the more background side of things, dealing with the office versus non-office stuff? Do you feel like the shows have been better? How hard has it been to kind of adjust to it? I know it was, very different in the beginning, but I feel like you guys have hit a really nice flow now.
Yeah, it's weird because I feel like a lot of my like day-to-day stuff in the office had to change because it's like very easy for me to like just like remind people about things and like kind of tie up all those loose ends when we're in the office versus when everybody is remote. Like everybody kind of has to take ownership of that piece a little bit more for themselves to like make sure that they know what's going on, or they look at the calendar, or like are looking at all sorts of things, versus when I just like yell in the office about like, hey, don't forget like the podcast has to start in 15 minutes. Um, so I feel like everyone kind of had to take on a little bit more just like personal responsibility in terms of that kind of stuff. So that was like a little bit different, but it's kind of nice. And then, but yeah, like I feel like it was, I mean, I can't give enough credit to Kevin for getting like everybody up and running, because that was just like, it was so crazy. And I'm sure like we've said this on a million shows, but like, yeah, Thursday afternoon, like we all had like a staff meeting that was like, hey, like we're keeping an eye on things. We'll let you guys know if anybody doesn't feel comfortable, like talk with us or whatever. And then like less than 24 hours later, it was like, okay, so we're working from home now. And what does everybody need? And Kevin, can you get everything? And like managed to get like everybody all set up. And like it was just, it's crazy. I think now it took a while to like find the cadence of what doing virtual content is, because there's just like that little bit of delay and stuff like that kind of changes like what everybody is used to from doing it in person. So everyone kind of had to learn a little bit how to do it differently. But I think that they've done a really good job. And I think it actually helps that like we're not all in the office, so that I think the Kind of Funny podcast this year has been really fun. And like I even just have it on in the background while I'm working, because it's like I'm not seeing all these people every day. So it does feel like catching up with friends, because some of this, even like when we were in the office, like sometimes stories like would then get told like maybe a second time on the podcast if they're like really good. But like a lot of the stuff now is just like, oh no, this is like actually just like things I haven't been able to talk with you guys about because we don't see each other. So that's why I think like some of the content this year has been really fun, because it is just not that it hasn't always been genuine, but it's genuine just like by circumstance that we don't get to see each other. So like when we're on camera, that you have like maybe a 5-minute buffer before of like things that we talk about, but it's mostly just like
I mean,
ready.
that's sort of the same thing I feel with my podcast with my friend, when we just, we don't talk all week, but then when we get on, we start talking about, things about our week. And, we are both big fans of Pokemon. And so we sort of catch up on the news like that. And it's a real pleasure. It's a lot of fun. And that's why I started doing it.
Like I feel the same way. Podcasts, or like even I play like Fortnite regularly with my friend Lauren. But it's one of those things, it's like, oh, any just regular time that you can like kind of build out week to week to like catch up with people. I feel like I have so much appreciation for now, especially like in these like weird quarantine times. Because it's just been like a really great way to connect with people.
I remember when I think it was you and Greg put the video up of like Kind of Funny's working from home. That was the moment where like, oh, this is serious. Like,
yeah.
And
well, because like, yeah, nobody knew how crazy it was gonna get or whatever.
Yeah, and I was just like, can't wait to see how this goes. And so far, it's going great.
Yeah, I know. We are looking forward to like eventually being back in the studio. Like inevitably, whenever like different pairs of us see each other because we're dropping stuff off, we're like, oh, miss seeing each other. But we're lucky enough that it's actually been like relatively easy to transition to working from home.
I've got this image in my mind now where like Kevin's like Totoro just outside in the rain with a little umbrella and like little package. Sorry,
oh my
Ben,
gosh!
What was your couple of questions?
All the time.
Oh yeah, sorry. My question is just so community management is something that I've always been interested in. So I was just wondering if you've got any tips or advice for people looking to get into community management, having that sort of background that you've got.
Yeah, it's a lot.
Yeah.
It's I mean, the weird thing about community management is that it's always evolving because internet and places to like build community are always evolving. So I feel like there isn't necessarily like a strong handbook for it. And if there is, I would love to have that because I feel like I could use it sometimes. I feel like the thing that I've learned is all about communication, which, sorry, not to steal Love and Sex Stuff's tagline, but it really is just about like, I feel like that's the benefit that I have that we have with the Kind of Funny community is like, hey, like we're not always gonna nail it, and we know that, and you know that, but we just have committed to at least being open with you guys about that. And I feel like that's kind of been the real like blessing, not blessing, but like blessing. Yeah, it's just like communication and being open, and like we're never gonna pretend like we're gonna get everything right, and we're totally down to like own up to our mistakes or our shortfallings and stuff like that when we do have them. And I feel like that's really all you can ask from people on both sides of like, I want honest and real feedback, and like we're gonna kind of have that kind of a discourse and stuff like that. Like that's really the thing. I think the other thing is like there's no way I would be able to do any part of my like community management side of my job without the amazing mod team that we have on all of our platforms. Like
Not to brag.
for the most part, a lot of them like kind of run themselves. And I feel like that's been such a blessing of like, I don't have to do a whole lot because you guys, and it's like, you guys do a lot of things like between Reddit and Twitch and Facebook and like everything, like those teams have like figured out what works for those platforms because like every platform is different. You kind of have to build like a tailored plan for each one of them. And they've done like a really good job because it's built on people that are passionate about Kind of Funny and like wanting to like help build the community, and also use of the platforms to, you know, the best kind of cases of like how to use different tools correctly and stuff like that. Because what works for Facebook isn't going to work for Discord, which isn't going to work for Reddit, which isn't going to work for Twitch and stuff like that. So they've just been great at kind of building that platform and that foundation of things.
I think credit to Kind of Funny that on the Reddit, you know, we don't have too much trouble because, you know, the community you've built is one of respect, of mutual understanding, of discussion and communication. So yeah, credit to yourselves for the kind of people that you've attracted to these platforms.
Yeah, and Reddit's kind of nice because it self-moderates of like upvotes and downvotes, and like if it's an unpopular opinion, it just like kind of disappears off the ether, which like there's criticisms of that too, of like, oh, you don't like to hear criticisms, and those why those.
I think the difference is when you've got someone who gives you criticism, that's good, right?
Yeah.
If you've got someone saying, "Oh, this fucking Imran bloke doing this, that, and the other," then it's like, well, no, you can't say that.
Yeah, you're not coming. You know? You're not bringing any like respectful discussion to the table.
Exactly.
So like, there's a clear agenda in what that is. Because yeah, there's plenty of highly upvoted posts that are very critical of the things that we do, and like we respect those decisions, and like we read all of those and we talk about them and stuff like that. So
it just helps you to grow.
We just try. Yeah. And it's like we also kind of have to agree too that like we're not necessarily going to address change every single thing that somebody brings up to us, because there is like bigger picture things and like that we have to figure out. And it's like just because one person doesn't like this format means that there's somebody that does. So it's like kind of weighing the pros and cons, and we know.
I guess where that's where your community surveys. Oh god, surveys. That's the word. Surveys.
Yeah,
is 1 a.m. here. Come into that. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Ben, did you have a follow up?
Oh, sorry, my last question. So I'm a huge Christmas Hallmark movie fan. I would love to know.
Yes,
I would love to know. Have you seen any good Hallmark Christmas movies? And if you can give me one recommendation that I should watch.
So I watched Holiday, which is on Netflix, which I wasn't very good.
Is it the Emma? Yeah, no, it was terrible.
The Emma Roberts one? Yeah, it was very not. Yeah. I had really high hopes for it, and I was kind of disappointed. As far as Hallmark ones, there is this, I think it's Hallmark. I can't remember. I think it's Hallmark. It is one where they're like, let me look it up. Hallmark movie.
Has it got Candace
So
Cameron?
it's actually like a girl that I ended up going to. It's called Mistletoe and Menorahs.
Oh.
When a determined toy company executive must learn about Hanukkah in a hurry in order to land a big account, she enlists the help of one of her coworkers' friends who happens to also be in desperate need of turning his bachelor pad into a Christmas wonderland to impress his girlfriend's father.
That sounds
I think
perfect.
it's really fun.
Sounds pretty interesting.
I really liked
Sounds
that
like a
one.
movie.
I'm also pretty much a sucker for all of the Candace Cameron ones where it's like
Yeah, they're
there was
great.
one where she was like a shopping or a shoe person. And who's the other one? Oh, Lacey Chabert, who's like one of the girls
from
in
Mean
Mean
Girls.
Girls. Yeah, she
Yeah,
has some
she's
like
great.
really fun ones too. And then what's the other one that I saw? Did anybody watch One Tree Hill? There's this Hillary
Right.
Burton, who's I was like, this is kind of a stretch, but
Poor Phil's just there, like, yes, I did, but he's not saying anything.
Oh, I was like, I also have the cameras minimized because I was looking this up. I think it's called A Christmas Wish. I think it's called A Christmas Wish.
I think I watched that one 2 nights ago. Yeah, that's really good.
Yeah,
It's the
and
one
it's
where
like
she. Oh, sorry, I better not spoil it. Actually, sorry.
yeah.
Yeah, please, Ben.
Did you make
It's
the
like
wish?
there's a wishing box in the middle of the town, and like everybody puts their wishes in, and then some of their wishes get granted. But it has like a bunch of people from One Tree Hill in it. They like have this weird like mini Hallmark reunion. So I liked that one. I haven't watched like almost any of the new ones this year, which is really disappointing. But I will hopefully catch up. I usually catch up over Christmas break because I make my mom record them because I don't have cable.
Nice. Very
So when
nice.
I go home, I just binge all of them.
Before we end, 2 questions. I'm really sorry for leaving it this late, but one in the spirit of Pockets Full of Soup, which if anyone's not seen Joey in Pockets Full of Soup, check it out with
she
Jared
crashed.
Petty. That's fine. Yeah, so just check out Pockets Full of Soup with Joey Noelle. But I was just wondering, Joey, in terms of people in the industry that does a similar job to you, is there anyone in this industry you want to sort of give a shout out to? And 2, what are your goals for 2021 and in the long term? Because I know Blessing wanted to win a few awards if he could in the long term future, but what's that for Joey
Yeah,
Noelle?
the awards are so nice to be nominated for. And like the community is always really great. And so I appreciate all the support. In terms of people doing really cool things, I want to make sure I get her like actual job title right. So pardon me.
No, you're fine.
I just want to make sure it's Victoria, who used to work for Kit Fox Games. Victoria Tran, maybe. See the oh, there we go. It's also hard to find people right now because everybody has holiday names. So when I like their names, they're not popping up. So yeah, so Victoria, she used to work on Kid Fox Games that was doing like Boyfriend Dungeon and stuff like that. Now she works at Inner Sloth Devs, which are the Among Us devs. She does some really, really cool community threads in terms of like community management and what that looks like on the development side of things. So if you're not following her on Twitter, you should absolutely do it. I think she does some really, really cool stuff. I also have to give a shout out to Rooster Teeth because they've been really good to me in terms of collabing with the community things. When I first got hired, I went out to Austin to meet with Barb to see if she could give me some like tips and tricks because we had kind of come from similar places of being community members that have ended up as managers and like how to kind of navigate all of the things that comes with. And Steffi over at Achievement Hunter and Chelsea are doing really good things over there too. And they've been like really, really great examples of like, they do like weekly community and coffee, like streams and stuff together, which are really cool. And I just always like to take notes from cool people doing cool things. I also have to give a shout out to Britt and Andrea at What's Good because they have also been like, we have really good conversations about just like different philosophies for community management and what that looks like. And I have a lot of respect for them because they do a lot of like education in their outreach of like when patients come up in like their Facebook groups and stuff like that. Like I appreciate like a lot of their outlook is like educating people on how to talk to other people or like how to present their worldviews and thoughts in a way that like isn't necessarily antagonistic and stuff like that. So they put a lot of work into that. And so I appreciate them very much too.
Cool. And anything you want to achieve next year, quickly?
My biggest goal for next year in general is to get us all back in the studio, which I don't really have any like particular control over. And then to start planning our studio launch party. I miss planning events and I miss seeing people.
Mm.
And I want to show people the cool space that we have and just get to like it's like a celebration of like the studio and also like we made it through this crazy 2020 year. So I've been brainstorming some like cool ideas of things that we could do for that event, which I have other things that I should probably be working on, but that's the fun stuff to think about right
Please
now.
be excited for that. Joey, thank you so much for coming on today. Where can people find you?
You can find me on the internet generally at Joey Noelle, mostly Twitter, sometimes Instagram. I mostly just post dumb things on my stories. Maybe more Moose is upcoming. I feel like I have been neglecting that part of my content. But yeah. And then youtube.com/kindafunny.
Awesome.
Eventually
Thanks again
when I
for
make
giving
my
up
way
your
back
weekend.
on. What?
Thanks again for giving up part of your weekend. It's been
Oh
awesome.
my
Thank
gosh.
you.
Yeah.
Thanks again
When
for
I
being
said
part of your
earlier
Christmas.
about like, oh, when I have to work on the weekends, I did not mean this stuff. This is the fun stuff. I mean like extra life and like
Appreciate
the
that.
long weekend things. No, but this is the fun stuff to get to talk with you guys.
But Joey, thanks again for giving up your Christmas.
Right, because we're
Oh,
doing
sorry.
this live on Christmas.
Oh, yes, of course.
You can go see your family
Particularly
now,
my
okay?
Christmas. That I will accept acknowledgement for. But yeah, happy to give
Your
you guys something to
birthday,
listen to
yeah.
on Christmas.
Definitely.
Yeah,
I wish
little
we
bit of
had more
everything.
time to do this with you. Of course, we
We'll
do have to.
we'll have to bring her back, next year. And
Yes,
Oh my gosh,
we would
Joey.
love to
anytime.
have you back. For those of you watching, you'll have already seen the Cool Greg episode, which should go live next week, and then this episode will go live on Christmas. So, yeah, it's weird we're recording them out of order, but we do have
Time
one
is a flat
episode.
circle.
We do have one episode already scheduled for the beginning of January. I don't want to give away the special guest yet, but all I'll say is that it's the ace up our sleeve.
Oh,
Thank you guys so much for watching. We'll see you next
Wow.
time.
Bye.